Hi, we're the Times, and welcome to the latest edition of Silicon Grapevine. Today, my guest is Sameer Wasson, CEO of MIPS, and he just joined recently. So, Sameer, hello.
Hello, good morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you. So, I've come to your office. You've been how many months in the job?
Give or take 6 months. So I started in September. So yeah, it's about 6 months. It's been a very interesting journey so far, and I think we're just warming up, and yeah, super excited.
So, I mean, what made you decide to come to MIPS? I mean, you've had a long career with TI and analog devices. Yeah, what was the opportunity here?
Yeah, the opportunity. I mean, honestly, see, every once in a while, if you think about it, if you think what happens in our space once a decade, it shifts a little bit. There's some trends, some mega trends which starts manifesting in a more material manner, and I think it's basically, for lack of a better word, that opportunity which excited me. Where in my career, I've seen probably when I was at TI the rise of comms infrastructure, and I was lucky enough to play a small role in that and learn a lot of how that went. Then we saw the advent of just automotive becoming interesting. And as more semiconductors came into automotive, I got to learn a little bit of that as I participated in the radar business and then obviously in the processor side. But then if you look out the next 10 years, I think just the paradigm on compute is shifting, right? And I know there's a lot of excitement, especially this week with GTC at NVIDIA, but generally speaking, the paradigm of compute is shifting, and these shifts don't happen suddenly. They happen, and then there's enough momentum on it when it just accelerates. And I tend to believe we're at that inflection point.
Yeah, and MIPS, I mean, it's had a long history. It's one of the early companies, and graphics, and then automotive. But are you going in a different direction now?
Yes and no. So look, markets will evolve, right? I don't think there is. If you look at a company as old as MIPS, it's 40 years this year.
Right.
So there are very few markets which persist with the same level of change and innovation for that duration. So I think markets evolve. What does not often evolve is what are you really good at? And I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to do what MIPS has always been really good at, but apply it to what's happening and what's happening in the market. And if we are able to find those intersections and execute to those intersections, I think we can capitalize on this change in a very, very good way.
Yeah, and I think as part of your onboarding, you've sort of rebranded, and you've done a lot to just sort of get people to get reintroduced to MIPS.
Yes,
is that right?
Yes, yeah.
CES, I think.
CES is when we came out with a rebrand, and we still call it MIPS because I think MIPS stands for something.
Yes.
I mean, it is our product. It is MIPS. But more than that, I think it's a lot of fun when you talk to customers who've now grown in their own careers. And the moment you start the conversation, say you're from MIPS, it's like, I have used MIPS. What are you doing? How is it different? So I think because as you can imagine, right, as I came in, as we started talking about rebranding, one of the conversations was, what is the extent of rebranding? And I think I feel very strongly that we landed in the right place by maintaining the name and the identity of MIPS. At the same time, we have rebranded because we're not building DOCSIS modem stuff anymore.
Yeah.
We're still moving a lot of data. We still want to process data, and we still want to be really, really good at it, if not aspire to be the best at moving data and processing that over time. But so that was which is important. But we want to go make sure that the world understands that we are making a comeback. We are very focused on what we do really well, and we're very focused on solving that problem for our customers in something which has never been done before.
And I think when I previously interviewed you, you talked about that focus on the data. So tell us a little bit.
So, I mean, look, data has always been there, right? I mean, we've gone from DSL days to large broadband to, if you look at where AI is today, I think there are many entities trying to process AI. And I think obviously there is one large behemoth, and I think it's just absolutely fascinating to see how a hardware company with obviously software has made a name for itself in the AI world. So great on that, right? Our goal is to make sure that we are building solutions which can feed those AI machines, and we can improve the utilization of those AI machines. Because if those AI machines, and we continue building these large processors which consume a ton of energy, even if they come out with the newer ones, they still consume a lot of energy. And there is just this demand and appetite for that data. If we can be part of the solution where we are moving that data more effectively, or just reducing the amount of data you need to move by some innovation around memories as well, you start getting to a realm where you're helping solve that problem.
Okay.
And I think that for us is our focus.
Excellent. Okay. The show's all about you. So tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into electronics, or is it something that was in the family, or did you just say, I'm going to do something different?
Oh no, electronics wasn't in the family. Engineering was in the family. My father is a civil engineer, and my mother was a doctor. So I think, in our background, academics is heavily weighted, and it was no different for me. I was not necessarily the most academically driven student, just to be clear. I think I was driven, but my sister, who's a year older to me, is significantly more academically driven. But as I got to engineering school, because that was still what made sense to me, because it was like, I liked solving problems, I liked understanding them at a more logical way. It's just how I think. So as I got into engineering school, that's where I started kind of really getting into it. And I think up until my third year of undergrad is probably where the bulb finally switched on, and I'm like, all right, this is really, really exciting. And I distinctly remember taking a signal processing course, which caused that turn. It was power electronics and signal processing. And computer architecture happened the year after that. So between all of those, then it was like, then I wanted to go to grad school, so I went to Syracuse after that. I was fortunate enough to work with a professor who's actually at Intel now, and he taught me a lot of the basics. So that was again just getting introduced to what we do, and it's just fascinating. So yeah, after that, went for an internship at Analog Devices. That was my first experience in a large semiconductor company. So
did you have to apply, or did they have on one of these sort of university?
So because I was in grad school, I did apply, and I applied to a professor actually. And the professor knew someone at ADI, and that's how I got an internship. And just putting all those theoretical stuff, even though I was in the lab in real practice, and I was doing just FPGA programming at that time. So it wasn't like I was building.
And what year was that?
2004, 2005.
So that was the era of Xilinx and Altera.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. So we were. I was given that task and saying, here's the evaluation module, and it was in the laser diode driver group. So something which was I was like CD readers, but my job was to build the evaluation module for that. So that's first hands-on experience. Loved it. I was like, this is it. Then graduated shortly after that. Had a few options, and picked to go to Texas Instruments because I was getting an opportunity to join the processor team there.
Right.
And my first job was actually working on the PSN processor. If you remember, that was a company which Apple bought later.
Yes.
But it was one of the startups out of the valley, and TI was doing the back end for them. So I was one of the 2-3 engineers who were put on that project. And my day one was actually sitting in a meeting trying to understand what people like Dan Doberpole were talking about. I was like, that's even more fascinating. So now we talk about networking and processes. So I think, luck is, what do they call it? Opportunity meeting preparedness. I think Syracuse and my undergrad and ADI prepared a little bit of me for that. And I think the opportunity was the job I got. So my day one was getting exposed to a startup in Silicon Valley building networking processors to go up against the behemoth, which was Cisco at that time.
Right.
Now they went in a different direction with Apple, but they were PowerPC based, and it was all about low power and how we're gonna move data around. So look at this. So that was my first day, and if you look at what I'm doing today, that's the journey.
So that's, I mean, you did quite a few years at TI.
Mm-hmm.
So is that 17? So
It's 17 and change, so 17 and 9 months, just under 18.
yeah. So you obviously went through a few roles, but what do you say was your most interesting or exciting? Or I know you talked about your first role, but there must be something where you feel really proud of.
I think there are many roles. TI is just an absolutely phenomenal place to learn, grow, contribute, and build businesses. One of the most unique things, and now that I've been out for about 6 months, there are 2-3 things which stand out. You get exposed to such a breadth of products and industries that it forces you to think system. And it is one of those, like, nothing against people who are not at TI. I'm always going to be a little biased, but it forces you to think systems because you're not building one thing. Like in my span in TI, I had the opportunity of working in processor, then cable modems, then comms infrastructure, then automotive radar, then automotive processors and industrial processors and microcontrollers. So if you just look at the span of both technologies, systems, industries, regions, it's just a lot of quote unquote data coming in. And if you're one of those who likes that and this, TI is just a phenomenal place.
So you soak it up.
You soak it up. I mean, every day, right? In my journey, I think I had the opportunity of participating in some very early stage businesses, some very mature businesses. And both of them teach you different things. Right up early, there's a very mature comms infrastructure business, which I was leading, and it taught very different things. It was like, okay, technology is important, but how do you go manage a very mature market, and how do you go financially run the business in a more sensible manner? So that was good learning. The next role after that was a complete startup. When TI was just getting into the automotive radar aspect, and that was totally the exact opposite, which was like, how do you go build the technology? How do you build credibility with a customer base, an automotive customer base who knows TI, but you're not a player in that market? And how do you go execute that? How do you build a team? How do you let innovation go? Because again, companies like TI are innovative, but innovation means very different things compared to a startup versus this. So how do you do that? And honestly, if it wasn't for the leadership at TI at that time, some of these ideas don't go anywhere because these are long-term investments. Nothing in semiconductors is quick, right? You've got to build the technology, you've got to build the capability to manufacture, you've got to build on top of that. And I think the leaders at that time supported younger people like me coming in and saying, okay, let's give it to them and see what they do. So I think that entire environment in TI is one of TI's biggest assets.
So that's great, but I would still ask you, what do you feel most proud of in your career?
What do I feel most proud of? I'm not much for feeling proud for anything because
for achievement.
Yeah, see, it's very difficult to say I achieved it.
It's a team
I think exactly. So I think it is. I've been part of many journeys. I think the radar journey is something which I hold very dearly and close to my heart because I think it changed me. It made me very entrepreneurial in terms of how do we do things. Right. It stretched me. It was the first time where failure would have been very, very evident because it's business is zero. It'll remain zero if you don't do anything. So I think that still stands out as something.
You felt a little exposed.
Exposed. And then the processor gig, which was much bigger, was a very different thing. It was already a very large business. that was more transformational in terms of that's very much what. So if you think about MIPS, it's a combination of both. We have a transformation in front of us, but it's also where we're going, it's pretty much zero.
Okay.
So if you put my radar experience and my processor experience together, MIPS makes a lot more sense.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. So what do you do, outside of work? Do you get time to do anything?
So outside of work, I like to pick one problem which I can continue working on.
Right.
And that problem typically tends to be around health and fitness on how do I do something. So early on when I had more time, I would do some triathlon training. Now I am trying my hand at tennis. So I picked it up. So I grew up playing a lot of badminton, but I picked up tennis just around COVID.
It's quite common.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, cricket is cricket, obviously, but I used to play a lot of badminton as well. And then I picked up tennis just around the time my daughter was picking it up around COVID. And it's not an easy sport. And as physical as it is, I think it's a mental sport. So, yeah, I'm having a ball of time just getting my skills up to a level where, like, I compete in some flex leagues and stuff like that too, just because that's how I'm wired, I guess. That's fun. But no, I think I pick one thing. I don't pick too many things. I just pick one and something which I don't know, and I just work on that.
I mean, you said the mental. It's all like judging the angles and things like that.
Oh, no. I think the angle judgment is more instinctive, to me at least. I think the mental aspect of it is how do you control your focus for an extended duration of time. Tennis is awesome from that perspective, right? Because once you're on the court, you can shut everything else off. Like, nothing against Apple Watches. I used to wear an Apple Watch. I stopped wearing an Apple Watch while playing because I don't want the buzzing. So it was like, just shut it off and just play. So I like that part where it is just my time on the court. So the good part of it helps you focus. The other thing is staying focused if you're playing a singles match for an hour and a half with ups and downs, it's not very different than what we do at work. Yeah. So it actually trains you for doing stuff like that differently. But keeping your emotions in control and not against the opponent is just, you know how to hit the shot, theoretically, but it's a lot of fun. It's just phenomenal.
So you mentioned Apple Watch, but what's your favorite bit of technology that you use? Apple Watch?
No, Whoop.
Sorry?
Whoop.
What's that?
Whoop. So I go through technology. I'm one of those bleeding edge technology people on stuff like that. I've tried the Oura, I've tried the Whoop. So Whoop is basically a sleep tracker and in fitness, one of these bands. And I like data, as you can clearly say. Coincidentally, data plays a very key role. So I like to wake up in the morning and see, okay, what does my data look like? And it is completely useless. It doesn't necessarily change my habits. Maybe it has. Sleeping time has become a little bit more consistent as a result of that. But yeah, I consume data.
Okay, and I guess on that line as well. What excites you most about the industry? I mean, it's quite high profile now. About the industry, about what you're doing.
So the high profile aspect is both good and bad, honestly speaking, right? The high profile is good because I think we will see investment and innovation at the rate we haven't seen in a long time. So as you think about, if I could just throw out a number or two, right? This shift where AI is going to permeate in almost everything we do, big, small, medium, whatever, that is going to drive TAMs of whatever, 300 billion, whatever people are saying, large numbers over the next decades. It's not going to be done by one person or one entity or two entities, right? You are going to germinate many entities which don't exist today or are not the biggest ones. So I think the board will be shuffled. I think the value chain is going to change. Fab foundries are doing more than they used to do. Chiplets are making an inroad into traditional semiconductor markets. IP vendors are evolving. Architecture is evolving. I think nothing is stationary. So So the high profileness has only accelerated. Now, the downside is there is going to be a little bit of frenzy, right? And frenzy can be distracting. So what I coach myself and I coach my team and honestly all our partners as well is there are many distractions and many shiny objects. Staying true to what we can do, what we can bite off and execute, and what we can deliver to our customer so that it solves the problem isn't going to change. And I think if you're able to do that, it's probably the most exciting time in semiconductors. I can't think of a reason why a semiconductor professional should A, be thinking about leaving the industry, B, not be thinking about where will this be 10 years from now, and are they learning more by staying where they are, or are they going to learn more by actually stepping out and doing something right now? There is investment. Again, it's not just random investment. There is investment available for the right ideas. And I think for young individuals or even mid-career, late-career individuals, think about what this could look like 10 years from now. Close your eyes and think about, is it going to be the same or different? I think it's going to be very different. And where does one want to be 10 years from now is the question they should be asking today.
Right. And what would you, my final question really is around, what would you advise young Sameer, knowing what you know now, but from what you've learned?
Young Sameer, thought of it, I'm still young, but anyway, younger Sameer.
Younger.
So,
one out of school.
One out of school. I think patience and just stability in thought and process. When your frontal lobe is not fully developed, you tend to kind of say everything should happen fast and let's go. And sometimes you miss out many learning opportunities there. What I do now, which I probably didn't do as well early on, was I'm not necessarily known for being slow, but I'm a lot more stable in terms of a steady hand on what I do. So we don't, like, going back to getting distracted by shiny objects is something which you can create a lot of motion or activity without necessarily having forward motion. So I think that's the change.
So you're the steady hand at MIPS.
I hope so, and MIPS needs a steady hand, trust me. These things take time, right? Everything outside is, every day you open up internet and there's going to be 5 new news articles about or announcements about competitors doing this and that and that. But like I said, if I've learned anything from the very, very successful CEOs I've had the opportunity of observing and learning from, and even senior leaders, and trust me, I've had a handful in my career who've helped shape how I think. Steady hand is very important. Yeah. You can shift strategies, but if you shift strategies too often, you're not going to succeed.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, Sameer, thank you very much.
My pleasure, and thank you for doing this. This is a lot of fun. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.